Welcome to Pink Radio with Prestige. This is the place for you, the diva boss entrepreneur who needs quick tips on building your crave-worthy brand. This is your host, Nicole Doss, CEO of the Prestige Society, a membership organization for women entrepreneurs who believe in building powerful networks while slanging in their industries. So I want you to go ahead and grab your favorite cup of coffee and get your favorite tips right here with Prestige. Hey, bosses. It's your girl, Nicole Doss, and welcome to another episode of Pink Radio with Prestige. I am super excited that you guys are with me in the new year, and let's just jump right into it. Today, we're talking about how do you boss up in 2021. A few things, I always like to start with a few updates. I will say, guys, I am super excited that we now have some Pink Radio with Prestige merch. Also, we have our Facebook group, so if you're interested in joining our Facebook group, please feel free. We do daily motivation. We do our lunch and chat every Wednesday. We drop a new episode in there every Monday. And if you want to just take a moment to really just connect with some of the others who listen to Pink Radio with Prestige, this is the place where you do that. So please feel free to join us there. Also, for those of you who are looking to join membership with the Prestige Society, please know that our membership is open now, only for the month of January. After that, we are closing membership. It will not be open again until the spring. So this is your time to really put a jump start. Please go and follow the official Nicole Doss on Instagram so that you can learn more about what we offer as the Prestige Society members. And then also, if you want to go to theprestigesociety.com and go to the membership tab to learn more about what we offer for membership, that is your opportunity to do that as well. So now that we did that out the way, I am super excited to talk about how we're going to boss up in 2021. I will say this. Last week, I did a whole year in review. And although that year in review was an opportunity for me to celebrate some milestones that we have experienced in the year 2020. The reality is that I also go through a time of reflecting where I fell short and what we need to do to get better. The reality is that if you only celebrate your successes without looking at where your opportunities to improve, you won't improve from year to year. One of the big things for me is that I do not like to experience anything that looks like the previous year. If I look like I am operating in the same vein as the previous year, that's a problem for me. That means that there's no growth. If I am doing the same things, that's a problem for me. If I am not introducing anything new, if I'm not doing some kind of continuous improvement to some things that are already in existence, to me, that's a problem. That's an issue. That has always been a mantra of mine. I always believe that no year should look like the previous year. So definitely for me, this is a time where I reflect and I really spend some moments being very intentional and asking, what is it that I want to do differently? And so I want to take you through that process so that you have the ability to also kind of go through that exercise and figuring out what it is that you need to do a little bit differently as we look at 2021. I will say this, and if I could just be really honest and very transparent, I do realize that we have listeners that are international and that the things that we experience regarding the pandemic looks very different than what is being experienced in the United States. And honestly, listeners, if you're in the Northeast, what you experience as far as the pandemic goes looks a lot different than what you experience if you're down south. I can't believe that nightclubs are even open down south. I can't believe people are walking into establishments with masks, but then partying without masks. I think that is completely negligent. I think that that's something that just adds to super spreaders. And then I think it's ridiculous when we're like shocked, like why is a certain area, even more of a hot spot than the other? I mean, it's all in how we handle it. So I do understand that because we have these different experiences, whether it's, within nations or across nations, that means that how we experienced 2020 also probably looks a lot different. So I will say those who probably lived in New York or anywhere in the Northeastern area, your experience with the pandemic was probably quite traumatic. I have clients and members who live in the New York City area. Specifically, I have members who live in Brooklyn who remember what they dubbed the death trucks driving back and forth when the pandemic first began. And that's really the whole driving back and forth from the hospital to the crematorium where they were cremating the bodies that had died due to COVID. And, being on lockdown for the first time, never experiencing being on lockdown, never experiencing things closing the way that it did, never really experiencing a curfew, and then constantly hearing those kind of trucks going up and down your street all day, I'm sure has a traumatic effect on individuals that I don't think everyone experienced across the nation. So I will say that when I talk about 2020 and I talk about how, I really want us to go into 2021 with this unapologetic, fearlessness, ambition, and really high set goals. I understand that that means different things to different people based on where you are, how you have gone through the pandemic, what you've experienced, and how it's impacted you personally and professionally. So I will say that I understand that what I say, what I experience is not a one size fit all kind of a blanket statement. But I do believe that in totality, we have been impacted in some way, shape, or form, and, all across. And so there are things that you are able to apply to this when it comes to looking at your business in the year 2021. So for me personally, I will say that when I went into 2020, I had a lot of high hopes. There was a lot of ambition in really what we wanted to do as far as fundraising efforts go. There was a lot of ambition in how we wanted to grow. We wanted to campaign and raise funds that would be able to allow us to bring on a staff of full-time and part-time employees. We were interested in growing in the areas of content development, social media, content development, as well as learning content development, and then also in sales and also in member engagement. All of the three tenets or pillars of the organization that is really important for us in order for us to, one, stay relevant, but also for us to make sure that we're continuously thriving, whether it's in keeping or retaining the membership that we have currently, as well as always thinking about different ways that we are appealing to the girl boss. But child, some stuff happened. I mean, when you lose your audience, 9,000 plus followers, that's a really hard pill to swallow. But also when you see that brick and mortars are being closed down and that offices are allowing there to be more remote and virtual teams, you really do question your goals when your goals are to open a brick and mortar, especially when that brick and mortar isn't really to provide a service to customers per se, but more to house employees. You ask yourself, is that really necessary, knowing that virtual work is more common and more of a thing, especially with the pandemic? So it really caused me to take a step back. And then, not for nothing, but I was working a lot harder and I didn't have any boundaries. So I was constantly working around the clock. And I would say probably around the summertime is when my leadership team acknowledged that I looked like I felt. Sometimes we can do a really great job in hiding how we feel. But I remember Lachelle Jenkins, who is our VP of South Jersey and Pennsylvania, was just like, you look exhausted, you look tired. And that's when she really forced me to do more outsourcing and really giving more or delegating more tasks to the leadership team. And so I realized that I was just really drained. I realized that I was really starting to feel the impacts of just constantly working. And I will say that then what ended up happening, which was really, disheartening, was then when we got hacked, I really lost all motivation to start from scratch, to start from, nothing and to rebuild. That was really a hard place for me. So I can't say that I really went into my third quarter with, ambition, but I will, or consistency. But I'll say that I definitely finished out the fourth quarter with that ambition and made up for lost time. So because of that, one of the things that I realized is really important is consistency. And I think that that's a theme or a trend that we all can say that we can relate to. The biggest thing for me was one of the things I really was proud of when we walked out of our leadership retreat last year was that we were going to walk into this space with having our regular meetings with my leadership team. And if stuff would pop up, or if I just needed a minute, or if I felt like I wasn't doing anything and I didn't want to be held accountable for it, I would cancel the meetings. And that's something where that's not helpful. It's not helpful in forward progression. It's not helpful in planning. It's not helpful in forecasting. It's not helpful for even looking back to see what works or what doesn't work. And that's really what my team is set up to do. And so I realized that if I don't show up in a way that gives direction or guidance, then my team can't show up, right? They can't show up without me. So that I realized is something that I needed to do. And it's something that was a problem, I would say, probably in previous years too, with my leadership team, was me not being as consistent as I needed to be. So I really tried to set up things where I would be consistent, and we wanted to kick it off the right way by doing our leadership team retreat. But I'm telling you, the pandemic kind of, smacked me on my behind. I really did try to pivot. I really did try to push forward as much as I could. But I realized in looking at some figures that there were some really great opportunities lost. And a lot of that was because I was really trying to survive during the pandemic and ebbs and flows of the pandemic. I won't say through the entire pandemic because, like I said, we were able to retain membership. We were able to put forth some really good things in 2020. But I didn't meet all of the goals that I wanted to, and I was able to realize, although we were able to celebrate some really awesome things, I was able to sit down and realize why I fell short in certain areas. So here's some of the things that I've done, and these are the things that I'm going to really encourage you guys to do so that you can have what I like to call a boss up 2021. So the first thing I think that is absolutely important for you all is to know your numbers. So what do I mean by that? So the first thing you need to do is you need to know really what numbers are really important to you and where you are today. So for instance, for me, the numbers that are really important to me is, money, capital. It's really important for us to continue to thrive and grow. The type of jobs we're looking to employ are jobs that are actually high earning income salaries. So being sure that I'm in a space where I can pay those salaries, it means that we have to be a financially thriving organization. And although we're looking for fundraising and rounds of fundraising, I never want to be in a position where I am dependent upon the raising of the capital. I want to make sure that we use it supplemental to what we're trying to do and that we're able to then self-sustain. I've seen instances where there were startups that have created these positions, and those positions were based on rounds of funding. And due to the fact that the rounds of funding did not take place, then those positions had to be eliminated. And that's not something that I'm looking to do. It's something where I understand that funding is definitely helpful in building up the valuation of an organization. But like I said, I want to make sure that once we receive funding, we're able to be self-sustaining and that we're able to then produce the income that's necessary for us to operate as a business. So knowing your numbers is absolutely important. But not just knowing your numbers. I mean, you may decide that, hey, it's not really about the money for you at this point. Maybe it's something where you want to build your followership. So looking at those that, follow you, whether it's you're creating a community, maybe you're creating maybe a Facebook group, maybe you're creating something on Mighty Networks, maybe it's Clubhouse presence, whatever the case may be. Really thinking about, what those numbers are and how they impact your organization is absolutely important. But in that case, you have to know where you are today. So, for instance, for me with the money piece of it, knowing where I want to be and knowing where I am today helps me in understanding how much of a gap I need to bridge. So, if I'm in a space where I need to, let's say, I need to make this huge leap, then I really need to think about what's that journey to that amount going to be. If I currently make $0.00 with my business and my goal is to be a six-figure earning business, the question is going to be, then Nicole, before you get to six figures, how do you even get to three? And I know that sounds dumb, but the reality is that if you don't even know how to generate three figures with your business, then how do you even get to four? How do you even get to five? How do you even get to six? Going from 0 to six figures is not going to work. You have to build up your muscles in order for you to be able to get to that point. So that's something that's really important. And I think that understanding your numbers will help you get to that point. So once you understand what you want to make, where you are now, and you are able to identify that gap, you need to go ahead and hustle hard to bridge that gap. Today I was just saying to my executive director of new business development, I was telling her how in looking at and trying to, and I'm sorry, I just got a message so you guys know, if you know me, that I straight get sidetracked so bad. So anyway, so what happened is that oh my gosh, guys, I can't stand when I get sidetracked like that. I am so sorry. So I was talking to Kiara, who is my executive director for new business development, and I was telling her, our goal that we have for getting new members. And in doing my own audit in my social media, what was interesting is that when I took a look at my feed on Instagram to see from, let's say, Christmas to, I'll say, today, which would have been December 25th to January 4th, how many posts did I post about membership? I gotta tell you, your girl posted 0. Now, I did stories, but after 24 hours, those stories are gone. So I might have mentioned it. I might have mentioned it on the podcast, but I don't have anything here talking about membership. So the last time I posted about membership was December 20th. And then the next time I did it again was January 4th. Well, that's a problem. And so especially when you look at how many people put their eyes on it, when you look at your insights, that's really a problem. So you want to make sure that when you are identifying your numbers, you get that laser focus of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. You understand where your numbers are today. And when you start working towards bridging that gap, you really have to do the work necessary to make sure that you are auditing your efforts, because when you're able to look back and audit your efforts, you can see whether or not you are really putting that work into making those numbers work for you or really achieving those goals. The second thing I will say, so remember, the first thing you're going to do, and when you're talking about bossing up this year, is going to be knowing your numbers. The second thing I think you need to do is you have to be able to ask yourself, what are you going to add to your business that's going to increase your value? Now, I don't necessarily think that increasing your value equals increasing your cost, but I will say that increasing your value is going to help people say, this is something that I really need to invest in. And I think that goes into looking at every year and saying, what am I going to do differently? If I give a perfect example of the previous years with the Prestige Society, when you joined Prestige at any given moment. There was no real timed joining of the Prestige Society. And when you joined the Prestige Society, you kind of joined into this void. And within this void, it was like, you join into this larger group, and there are these classes that you can take every month. And these classes really didn't follow a particular, they didn't really follow like a particular cadence, if you will, or sequence of learning. So what would come up would be merchandising, or using Canva, or build your website, or create a podcast. So these sound great, but let's think about the person who usually joins the Prestige Society. So it's usually a gamut. Someone that's within the first 5 years of building their business. They either have an idea that they've just started, or they have an idea, and now that they're nearing that third, fourth, and fifth year in business, they're really not seeing the kind of success that they would like. So they're looking to get a little bit more information or guidance so that they can start operating in excellence. And so are operating in this space that they feel is where they should be with their business, right? So with that being said, imagine if you are building your business and you are 4 years into having your business, but you don't have a defined mission or vision statement. You do not even have a real defined branding, meaning logo, text, color font. You don't even understand color psychology and how that impacts your audience, nor have you even begun to think about it. You haven't really identified who your target market is. So all of your copy and all of your content is all over the place. No one really knows your brand. They kind of see you doing something, but there's no true call to action. So they're not really sure what or how they're supposed to interact with you. So if these things are really happening, and you start creating, let's say, merchandising, and you create shirts and t-shirts and sweatshirts, no one's going to buy it from you because they don't really understand this thing. And they're going to think you're trying to create a clothing line. And if it's just merchandise to support this brand, because merchandising and a clothing line are two different things. If you have merch, that means that people love the brand so much that they want to wear the apparel that goes with the merch. But when you create a clothing line, you're just interested in creating a line of clothing that inspires a very particular group of people in the fashion industry. So if you're not getting into the fashion industry, you're just looking at merch to support your brand, you got to understand there's two separate things. So if you don't have a well-defined brand and you're creating merch, no one's going to buy your merch. You've created it all in vain. If you are trying to create a podcast, but nobody knows exactly why they should listen to you, then you're going to see that your numbers are going to be really low. So I always equate what Prestige Society looked like prior to, I'll say last year, to going into kindergarten and day 1 teaching you trigonometry, then day 2 teaching you addition and subtraction, then day 3 teaching you calculus. There was no real sequence of learning. And so what we decided to do was create learning paths with year 2020, really focusing on the first learning path, which was Boss Academy, which allowed you to go through an 8-week incubator period and then a 4-week accelerator period where you're able to really flesh out your brand if it's already existed, or your idea, to really ensure that it's going to be a brand that's thriving or that will be able to be financially thriving, and an opportunity to go through an accelerator program so that you can see that return on your efforts and on the things that you've learned so you can actually apply them to your business each week. So I will say that from 2012 till 2018, or 2019, we were really spending our time in going from this like face-to-face community to this virtual community to standing up chapters to getting leadership in place to then realizing that we had to build some structure around what happens when someone joins the Prestige Society. Now, because these classes are a blended delivery, meaning they're e-learning and in person, you're in a cohort of about 12 women. So that means that for 12 weeks, you get to build with 12 women who become your subset group of sisters that now you get to know, now that you've worked with, now you have a personal relationship with them. So then when you get dumped into the larger organization, you're not lost. lost because you have women that you've gone through the actual experience with. So what we realize is that when women come out of this very structured space, going into these like monthly sessions of we have a workshop here, you have a workshop there, women are still a little lost. So they're still looking for this cohort kind of a group. And so we introduced our second learning path. And then now we have up to 5 that we've created for 2021. So these are things where adding value for me is really important. This year, I'm really big on like sisterhood pride, like the women being proud sisters of the Prestige Society, wearing that badge very proudly and letting people know that this is something that they honor, that they love, that they really respect. So this is something for me that for me is continued value. So adding those additional learning paths, making sure that we're improving on the current learning paths that we have, going from there really is helping us. So really think about for you, what is that thing that you are going to add to your business that's going to help step or elevate where you are from last year to this year. Next, and the last thing is get a team and outsource when and if possible. I think for me, outsourcing is really hard because I'd rather give it to someone who knows and understands the brand instead of just kind of getting a random consultant. So I don't really struggle with interns. I really don't struggle with delegating like classes and things like that to my leadership team. We actually did that with the back to school series, I'll say in September. But where, some of the leaders had the opportunity to actually teach classes. So shout out to Jen Ortiz with Creations by Jen. Shout out to Kier Benskop, Jet Setter Realty, as well as Lachelle Jenkins, Dr. Lachelle Jenkins, who also helped us out as well. So, thank you. Those are my fabulous, awesome Prestige leadership team, and they were the ones who really helped me out in teaching classes in our back to school series. So delegating that is not an issue for me at all, but it's just getting those people I don't really know like that. That's a problem for me. So definitely I am seeing more and more of a need to outsource, and I'll tell you what you need to do. The first thing you absolutely cannot do is just get someone to come on board for the sake of coming on board. The ability to see someone really be successful or really show up in a great light is dependent upon your leadership skills. So if you lack direction, if you lack consistency, which we just talked about, my issue, right? If you lack the ability to give guidance or be available to give guidance, if you don't have the right procedures and things in place, then people are going to be lost, and they're going to only really operate in the space that they think they should operate in. So really be mindful of that and really start thinking about what you can do to help you get into a space where you can be a better leader so that your team understands how they can better help you. But definitely think about how you can bring on folks to help you, because I'll tell you, if you think of any organization you've ever worked in, there's not just one person who works the organization. And if so, then you were brought on to help them because they can no longer be that one person running the business. Every business that is a trusted company that you know of is a company that is that has departments and departments of people who help do a job to keep the business going. So definitely, if this is the year where you need to elevate, where you're just no longer a solopreneur, but now you're looking to really scale up, these are the things you really need to take into consideration. So listen, guys, I'm not going to keep you long on this Monday. This is the first Monday of the new year. I hope you are making phenomenal goals, but make sure, like we just talked about, that you are taking the time to really put forth effort into thinking about how you're going to boss up this year. So remember, know your numbers. What do you want to make? Where are you now, and how are you going to push hard to make sure that you are bridging the gap? Number 2, figure out what you're going to do to elevate your business in terms of value. So what else are you going to provide to your clients that's going to put you in a better position to provide value? And then number 3, make sure that you are getting a team and outsourcing if and when possible. All right, guys, it's your girl, Nicole Dawes. I hope that this has blessed you and your business. Have a wonderful, awesome, and most of all, blessed day. Bye, guys.